Alrighty. Hey everybody. Before we get started, I want to thank you all for coming. I looked at the schedule. This was a tough time slot. And so, about me, my name is Jacob Anderson. I graduated from MSU a year and a half ago and have been working at Techsmith on Camtasia Studio ever since. So, I would like to get to know a little bit about who came to the session. So, just for a show of hands, how many of you have never touched Camtasia Studio before? Okay, yeah. And how many are consider themselves beginners still? Okay, and then advanced users? Okay, okay, cool. And then how many have not touched 8.1 yet? Okay, so we got some people who haven't seen any of this yet. That's good. So what I'm going to talk about are mostly the new features that came in Camtasia 8.1. I will throw in a couple of little-known things that are kind of not as discoverable as we'd like them to be. So I'll, I guess, jump right in. Feel free to stop me if I'm going too fast, or if you have a question, just shout out and make sure I repeat your questions for the mic. All right, so let's jump right in. So this is Camtasia Studio 8.1. What I'm going to do is import. I got a couple of media that I pre-prepared here. All right, so first thing I want to show you is crop. I'm going to put the screen on the timeline. I don't really care about the audio so much, so I'm going to delete that. All right, so this is just a picture of somebody's hands doing gestures that you would find on an iPad or something. But something I noticed was right up around here, there's this white thing that I have no clue what it is, and I want to get rid of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use crop mode, and crop mode, that's this button here. So when you click on that, you'll see it grays out a little bit. That means you're in crop mode. And you'll see that the borders turn blue and the handles are square now instead of round. That means you're in crop mode. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this one and bring it into the left. And that got rid of that little white thing over there. So another thing is, okay, this is going to be tough to do with the mic, so I'm going to set it down for a sec. If you hold the Alt key, you can also toggle that on and off. So when I've got Alt key down, Alt key up, so that's a good way to quickly do crop. So you can do that. What's up?
Could you have filled that with green?
Could I have filled that with green? If I wanted to put another media behind it, I could.
Oh, but no easy fill with this is
No. So that's crop. The next thing I want to show you is the remove a color function.
Can I make a statement?
Yeah.
One thing I think that he was looking for is a way to clear the border around the video, maybe? You said you couldn't add green to it, but one thing you could do is use visual properties or scale that picture up just a little bit, so it refilled in the canvas.
Oh, okay.
Then you got rid of all that stuff right then and there.
Gotcha.
Okay, so he was saying, like, how do we get this space that we just created refilled? We could scale this up and make the hand bigger, but it would also fill in that space. Yeah, and then you could also stretch it out this way if you wanted to. One thing is that these yellow lines on there, those are snap lines. Those help you to get your media lined up pretty nicely. So what I'm going to do is scale it a little bit. I want to go to the Visual Properties tab, and then scroll down here at the bottom. There's this Visual Effects section, and then you click Remove a Color, and then all these sliders and this come up. So if I click on this button, I can pick a color. Usually use the dropper here, and you want to pick a section that tends to be not gradient, so kind of a constant section. Up here in this corner looks pretty good, so I'll do that. Boom. So now it's got the black background. It's removed the green. Let's make this a little bigger so we can see. But you can kind of see a little bit of a green outline. So what I'd like to do, I'm going to use this tolerance slider, and I'm going to bring that up a little bit. And now it's a little less green around the outside. I know it's hard to see on this. But then the other thing you can do with this invert is it's going to remove everything but that color. So that, I don't know what you would want to do with that, but go for it.
I was thinking of that eyedropper, if you would touch the green that was on there and then touch the white spot, then it would become green like the surrounding green.
Hmm.
So it doesn't do that. Some programs will allow you to do that.
Oh, okay. So you're saying it would fill in that color?
It would recognize
Okay.
the color by clicking the eyedropper on the color. And
Yep.
then you would click on the white spot and it would fill it with the recognized
Like
color.
Snagit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like Snagit does. No, it works a little different than that. Yep. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add this image to the timeline. Stretch it out. One thing you'll notice is that it went on top of the hand, and that's because I have the deer one over top of this gestures. These are the order that they're laid down on the preview window. So if I rearrange these, the hand comes up to the front. So now I'm gonna scale this down a little bit, put it about where it looks like it's pointing in the middle. All right, get my notes back. All right. So that's crop and remove a color. I'm going to talk a little bit about animations. One of the newer things is that animations now will show up right on the media instead of being in the little tray thing that they used to be in. So that's nice. That's more like the Camtasia for Mac.
What's the format of the animation?
Huh?
What's the format of the animation?
The format? So they're like an arrow now. What?
Oh, no,
I
I'm
guess-
just wondering what so the animations you mean, it's just a piece of video?
The animation itself, I'll explain what it is here in a second. But it's a way to change your videos, how to move it, animate it around. So yeah, let's do this here. So I'm going to see this video is essentially people gesturing around, or a person gesturing around. So right here, he does a left swipe. So what I'm going to do is go to the end of it right about there, delete this one that I put in here, and one way you can add animations is here. Another way, you can press the Z key and add an animation right there. So right now, I've added a blank animation. The animations work by, you have a start state over here and an end state over here, and during the arrow is when it's converting from that start state to the end state. So right now they're the same thing, so it doesn't do anything. Actually, I wanted this on this media, so I'll do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it look like that finger moving is going to move the image behind it. So I'm at the end state of the media, and it looks like, remember it was roughly around the deer neck, so I'm going to move that over to here. So now, when we play it back, it's not quite right. It moved over a little bit slow, so I'm going to shorten it up a little better. Okay, so that's roughly okay. So another thing I'm going to do, I'm going to add another animation and bring it back. So now it looks like it goes back. All right. So one of the new features is that you can now copy and paste these. So again, with the mic, weird. And then I'm Control C, move my playhead to where I want another one to end because I've copied both of those keyframes. So probably there is one of them. And then Control V for paste. You can also right-click, copy, right-click, paste. So that will do it again there. So another way you can use that, let's go down to the end here, add some callouts. Oh, I've got 2 callouts here. Oops. That. Move down here. Okay. Put my playhead over them so I can see them. And select the bottom one. Let's move that down to the bottom. Stay consistent. And move this one over here. Okay. So I've got these 2 callouts. And right now they're just stationary. Let's say I want to add an animation to the bottom one to make it move over here. So one thing that I can do now is I can copy this. I'm going to double click it so that they line up exactly and then paste it on this one. Now you'll notice the end state is that position, not necessarily I moved right. So what I'm going to want to do is move this back up. And now I should have 2 arrows doing the exact same thing. Another thing about animations, and this was new to 8.1, is we've added easing. So right now they're a linear thing, which means it moves at a constant speed from one state to the next. And something you can do, you can right-click animation easing and change it to exponential in out. And that's just the math function that it uses now to go from one state to the other. And if we play that, you'll see that they move at different paces. Let's actually get these well at the same time. So the easing ones will slowly speed up, get going, and then slow down into their final position. But you'll notice that they take the exact same amount of time to get from one spot to the other. So
which was, go back over that for just a second. Which,
yeah.
Which was the one that you applied to easing?
So that would be, I think, yeah. It would be the top one. Yep. So this one it's speeding up a little bit slower than the other one because that one's going at a constant speed. And then it goes faster, and then it comes in here, and it slows down, but then they finally come in at the same time. Yep. Yeah, no problem. Oops. Yeah. So you may have noticed also before I was doing this with multi-selection, which you hold shift to do. And you can copy and paste multiple that way. So I'm actually going to change all of these to use exponential easing. Now go back and look at this. Now it looks a lot more like what you would see on an iPad if you were playing around with it.
Can you use that plane?
It's whenever you use an animation, you'd want to decide, do you want it to look linear or eased? The eased ones tend to look a little bit nicer when you're having a call out come in because it's more smooth.
Can you share your pointer finger with us?
Hmm?
Can you share your pointer finger with us?
Can we share that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I will find out, and if I can, I'll send out some kind of announcement or something.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. I know that we, with our training videos also, they started including the projects on some of them, and I think the chroma keys one is there. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The green screen can also be called chroma key. Sorry if it's confusing. All right. So the next thing I wanted to talk about. So most of this video, it's all slide, 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 and eventually, somewhere way over here, it gets to that, which is pinch to zoom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show stitching here by just cutting out all of that. Actually, I'll just use the cut button. So what you've got here, zoom in so we can see it better. You'll notice that this looks different than that. What this did was the bottom one is an image. So it did a split instead of stitching the videos together. And the difference between a split and a stitch is that when you split things, they act like two media now. They are completely independent. Animations that you did to one have absolutely no effect on the other media. Whereas if you have stitched media, they act as one. So if I move this around, it will all move as one, whereas this one is completely separate. And another big change about that, which is the reason for stitching, was so that we could help people with their animation workflow. So you can see here that we've got this animation on the image here. Let's change that and put it up here for now. And you'll notice that once we cross that border, it jumps back to its original position. Now, if we had the same thing with the hand, where let's say we move it way up here, and you go across the stitch, it doesn't change the position anymore. So that way, animations will continue across your stitched media. Anybody got questions about that?
You can do transitions through that, if it's split, you can't do transitions from one.
Yeah, right now we don't have transitions over stitches, but we can do transitions over splits.
One thing
So-
I'll mention that might help that question
Yeah.
is that when you do a split, you set up splitting in the tools options section. I don't know if stitching's on or off.
Yeah.
If it's on and you do a cut like you just showed, and it does a stitch automatically, if you plan on or need a transition there, just hit undo one time. Because the function is actually two steps. A split stitch, so when you undo the stitch and you still have the split. And that'll save you a lot of editing time if you have to stick in transitions where you just did a cut and you have a stitch, even though you don't want it there.
Yeah. So
But when you do, if you put a transition in what is now a split, then you can't stitch over that transition.
No, you can't.
no.
You have to, if you want to have, you can't have a transition where there's no split, basically, because it's only seeing one thing.
Yeah.
Follow me? But it's, I have found that stitching makes editing a lot easier for what you described because things translate over a longer part of the timeline. However, there are many times, particularly when I do like software tutorials where you're jumping from one scene to the next and you made a cut, you don't want that instantaneous changeover. So sticking a transition there helps smooth the action.
Yeah, and you can see where transitions are by when you go to drag them down. There's that yellow glow there. It'll tell you that's where you can put a transition. So what he had also mentioned was if I did another cut, yeah, if I press undo right now, it's going to undo that stitch point so that it turns into a split. I'm gonna undo that again.
The stitches are really nice when extending the frame. Put that in there,
Yeah, that also, yeah. Yeah, so if you extend frame, which you can do with the E key, it also stitches them at the end, is what he was talking about.
So I have a question about that, because what I used to do is I'd have, audio that talked about this thing for 5 seconds, but I only had 3 seconds of video, right? But it wasn't a perfect science, so I would need to, extend frame 2 seconds, and then I'd be like, oh, I need to, give it another half a second or take away a half a second. Now I can't do that.
Yeah, okay, here, I'll show you. So what I did is I added a extend frame. The question was about extend frame and if you need to tweak that duration. So I know that this is an extended frame. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on it, and there's this duration under there. And you can go back and you can change that to however many seconds you want, and it'll do it all without having to unstitch. What's up?
The other way you can do it is the second stitch there, right click on it. You have to right click on the stitch.
Yeah.
And unstitch it.
Yep.
Right?
And then you could.
And then you can grab that.
You can trim it.
Hold your shift key down.
Yep. So
Hold
you
your
could
shift
do.
key down and drag to the right to extend it.
Yeah.
You know,
So you.
to the 5 seconds you need. That's the other way, because maybe it's not 5 seconds, maybe it's 5.125 seconds, right?
Yep.
And then right-click on it and stitch it back up.
Yeah, that's good if you don't know the exact number of seconds that it's going to take.
Yeah.
You can ripple trim this to however long you need, and then if you want the animations to go back, select both of them and stitch.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Discovering the unstitching
Yep.
was a big aha.
Yeah, and if for some reason like you hate stitching, you can go to Tools Options, and you can disable auto stitching, so it won't stitch every time that you do a cut. So one other thing, and that was a good segue into this, I wanted to mention Ripple, because that is one of our, little known features. It's not super discoverable because it's pretty much the shift key. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this media, and I'm going to hold down shift, and it's going to move all that media to the right of it with this media now. So if I'm not holding shift, it just moves the one and it'll collide here. You can multi-select and do this as well.
What about the tracks above it? What if there was a call out above that?
So,
Yeah, like there.
so if I added a call out here and I select these two
Right.
and I hold shift, it's only going to move the ones on the tracks that you've selected a media on. You
But
can,
if I selected, but if you shift selected that one, the next one down, and that one,
now you can, yeah, now it would move all of it.
and
Yep.
you don't have to select anything to the right of that.
Nope.
So
It's,
whatever elements are on the, whatever that top track is there.
Yep.
Anything to
3.
the right of that will move and stay synchronized
Yeah.
with what you have.
Might be easier to, if I
Yeah.
zoomed out, I'll add some more callouts over here. So I can select whatever, and to the right of whatever I have selected moves with that. Also, another thing you can do is you can hold shift and do this with the playhead, and it will move everything. Now if you do that when you're over a media, it's going to make a split there so that you can keep moving everything. So I'm gonna undo that. So another thing you can do, you can make a timeline selection, and then there's this insert time, and that's going to do pretty much exactly what we're doing with shift drag the playhead, only it's going to do a split and do it all at once. So if you knew like how much time you needed there, you can do that. Yeah.
You do that, and you've got a track locked, then the lock track won't.
So if I did this, if I lock the track, insert time, that will never move.
Yeah, the lock
Yep.
one, yeah.
Anything that's locked never moves.
Yeah.
Let's carry again. You can also ripple trim. So that's what he had me do earlier, where you select the media and you trim from the right, and it will move all the media to the right of it as well.
And is that, and when you did that
Mhm.
to the left, I can't tell from here, is that an image or is that a?
This is the green screen video. So this is the video.
So it's video, so you're trimming the video.
Yep, I'm
right?
trimming the video in and bringing everything to the right
Yeah.
back in with it. You can do it with images as well. There's no limits to images, so you can just
Yeah.
trim it all around. So that is
What's
most
the
of
definition
it.
of a ripple trim again?
Ripple trim?
What is it?
Holding shift, and then so it moves everything to the right of that media with the trim. So that is actually the majority of what I wanted to show you. I could do a couple more just keyboard shortcuts. That's more of a power user thing. But
Did you show cropping?
yeah, at the beginning,
Oh, sorry, never mind, did
Yep.
not have to go over it.
yeah, it was
I can-
this button. So, does anybody have any burning questions about Camtasia? Somebody's gonna have.
Are there any changes in the produce and share area?
I don't think we had any changes to that. No.
Okay.
Other than, there were bug fixes.
Well, yeah.
production. I know we had a couple bugs going into 8.1.
So we had a couple bug fixes as well.
We need to set it up a little bit, so there's no additional features.
Yeah,
Yep.
right.
Steven in the back said there's also been updates to SCORM support.
In what way?
Maybe add some features, or add some new properties.
Yeah. I think we
Oh, okay.
added some new properties in there, like I think you can set the completion percentage. So if somebody watched 60% of your video, then you could say they watched it.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yep. So anything else? Yeah.
Did you say there was a webcast that you did that shows this?
There was a webinar. I did not do it. Our product manager, Jason Vlad, did, and Walter Pulowski. I think we're going to put that up at some point. It goes over this and is much more geared for beginners. So that's definitely a good resource. Also, I wanted to point out that a lot of what I talked about with the animations and stuff can be found on our website under Techsmith. If you go to support and then come down to tutorials and find Camtasia Studio, we've got a whole getting started series and then these in-depth guides. So these are really good resources if you want to know more about a certain thing. So like the animations in depth will go over easing and what animations are, like I tried to do. And then also there's a really good one about the remove a color in here, right there. Josh Holdnagel is our instructional designer. He did most of these videos. And the remove a color one will explain what the different sliders are. So there's tolerance, hue, defringe, and something else. And explain what those actually do and how to get the best out of your green screen.
You said you can download the actual project too, so you'll have.
Yeah, so if we look, I think at animations in depth, might have it. Yep. So right here, there's this download project link. And this way you can see how Josh created the animations in depth video. And like, I know that he's got, I think somewhere in here, there's a cat example, if it wasn't super slow. But he's got all these like crazy spinning callouts, and you can look at his zoom and pan animation or whatever and see how he did all these things.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool to look at.
I will add that not all of the projects are available,
Yeah.
because we have some size restrictions with our CMS.
So yeah, Leanne just pointed out that not all of them are available because we have some size restrictions with our CMS. So
There's one thing I'd like to point out to the group about animations and grouping. If you, because of the new UI for the way animations look in the timeline, if you have multiple videos that are actually grouped together, you can open that group, select the one video in there you want to address, and assign just an animation to that one video.
And still keep them grouped.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
slick as
cool.
the devil, because
Yeah.
that way it allows you to have moving parts within something else.
Yeah.
so
And that's not easily discoverable, so I thought I'd mention it.
yeah, so he was mentioning if I had a group here, what I could do is expand this group, select a piece of media, and I can add animations to just that one piece of media. Whereas if you add an animation to the group, that affects every media within the group at that point. So it would move, like say you had 9 images all touching each other in a square. If you put an animation, or if you had those all in a group and you put an animation on the group, it will move all those 9 as one thing. Yep. So, anything else? No? Well, huh?
Right, and I did take notes on the session in terms of some of the highlights and included the link to the tutorial.
Yep.
So if you go to that link right there, bit.ly/stat350 white,
Yep.
all the information should be there.
Yeah,
Yep.
cool.
And then if you have any questions or think of something afterwards, let me know and I'll be happy to show you. Thanks for coming.